Hello everyone, so today we're going to be going over the satiety index and for keeping appetite at bay. So if you're really struggling in a fat loss phase and you're feeling full and you're getting to the point where maybe you've been in a few weeks of a fat loss phase and you're struggling with appetite, these foods are going to keep you a little bit more fuller for longer, and they're going to be a little bit less calorie demand, and they're going to help you with keeping those cravings at bay. So we're going to go into a whole lot of information, basically to keep everyone a little bit more fuller, a little bit more happy with their appetite, and maybe start including some of these foods into your meals. I'm not saying that you have to change all of your foods into those meals straight away, but from a appetite standpoint, we're going to try and suppress it a little bit and making sure that it's at bay. So we're going to go into a whole lot of information. So please don't be afraid to drop me a message, and if you want any more help from me, please message me directly. So first of all, what is satiety index? So basically the satiety index is a score of keeping your sustainable weight loss, keeping you fuller, keeping your cravings at bay, like I've already said, without the calorie heavy price, and making sure that we're going over our calorie allowance and making sure that we're feeling a little bit more fuller for longer, as I just said. And this is going to be really helpful in certain situations if you need to feel like that your appetite is struggling a little bit. So it's all still very essential of making sure that your macros are on point and you have a good relationship with those, and making sure that they are included. This is obviously just a guide to making sure that we keep our appetite at bay. So what I'm not saying is just eat one singular food. That is just because it's the highest food in the satiety index. It is a resource that we use to include within our foods and our protein and carbohydrates and fats diet. And then from there, we can pick and choose some foods to hit those targets. And with those foods, say a carbohydrate based one, you add that in. You don't need to eat that one singular food for the rest of the day. You are still hitting those targets of the protein, fiber, carbohydrates, fats, and calorie allowance. So on a basic level, let's see if I can move myself, sorry. You can see that on the right is a bit more of a overlapped variation of kind of what's on the left a little bit. So as we can see, that a lot of protein is going to be the most filling, which is kind of overall what is the most satiating is protein based. But then going into carbohydrates and a little bit more of a overall understanding, if we look onto the left, as you can see, potatoes is one of the most satiating carbohydrate sources, and then going into meats, red meat and white fish is very satiating. That's why you kind of see it quite a lot. Oats is still pretty good. Rice is not as satiating. It's quite fast digestion, even though it's a good source and it's a singular ingredient. You will get to a point where you maybe need to swap from rice to potatoes, as it is quite a lot more filling. And then going into refined, compared to potatoes, you can see that refined is still very, very not appetite pleasing, and it generally leads to crashes in our insulin and sugar spike. And that's what it kind of goes into more, furthermore into this information here. The greater the spike, the more appetite was kind of, more of the appetite was demanding, as the higher the amount of carbohydrates will crash your blood sugar levels a little bit more. So having a nice dispersed amount and not having too much can maybe help with the amount of crashing and appetite as well. So moderate amounts and not having too much of a significant amount, as it can help with appetite. I'm just going to move my head and go back to this slide. Yep. I just wanted to show that bottom left slide of that graph on the bottom left. As you can see, the hyperpalatable foods are very on the bottom end scale, refined carbs and fats. As you can see, refined carbs and fats in general are not as good as single food carbohydrate variants, such as potatoes, porridge, and then fruits as well. A little bit of dose of that in as well. It's just going to help with the amount of fiber intake alongside those foods, slows down the digestion and helps with that insulin spike. It's going to keep you a little bit more fuller for longer. So as you can see, the higher the level, the more satiating it is. Yeah, so, and then last graph, as you can tell, optimizing your protein is one of the biggest indicators as well when it comes to keeping your satiety low and making sure, or satiety high, sorry, and keeping your appetite not craving all these foods is keeping your protein optimized. As you can see, the average amount of the population dotted at the first line, you can see that on the average population will have a lot more calories consumed because they eat more refined carbohydrates and fats compared to someone who's more optimized around the 30% mark. Some people might, depending on what phase, might be a little bit lower. In some phases maybe a little bit higher. Will be less demanding on carbohydrates and fats. So keeping that protein high is absolutely essential for keeping your appetite at bay. So, and on average, you will demand less food because you are having more protein within your diet as well. I hope this helps. And if you need any help from me about this, or want any more information, please drop me a message. I hope you take this on board, and I hope you enjoy this video. If you want any more help from me, please drop me a message. Have a great rest of the day, guys, and I'll speak to you soon.